What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for week number 5 NFL picks. I wanted to go live earlier, but we had some technical difficulties. My computer was just not having it today. So I apologize to the people that usually show up here about 2 hours earlier for the live stream. But still wanted to do it tonight, so hopefully we have a good crowd and some comments. So get in that comment section. Let me know how you feel about week number 5 in the NFL. But I wanted to do the picks tonight anyways. I was going to leave it till tomorrow. I got to do the start 'em, sit 'em. Got a lot of other stuff to do. So I wanted to spend the time tonight to break down the games, preview the games individually, and give you my thoughts on the matchups this week for week number 5. Before we do get started here for week number 5, breaking down another slate in the NFL, make sure you do Gronk spike the like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos and weekly NFL picks on the channel. Also, comment your opinion, whether you're here live with me here tonight, live, or after the fact, watching this recorded. Leave your opinion. Week number 5. Who do you have winning? Who do you have losing? How you doing in your picks? Let me know. All right. Let's get into first my record for the season, because I want to keep you updated with my record, how I'm doing, my wins, my losses, and all of that. I think that's always a good thing to do. If anyone does picks and never actually tells you how they're doing, I think that is skeptical just a little bit, So I'll give you my record. So my record, straight up, 45, 16, and 1. Pretty solid there. Spread, 33, 26, and 3. And my best bets, I had a rough week for the best bets last week. I went 0-2 and 2 because one of the games was voided, I'll say, or disqualified, because I picked the Patriots, but I had to change my pick because the Cam Newton, like the day before the game was supposed to happen, of course, he got the COVID, so that totally changed things. So I just took that right off the board of my 5 best bets, which I do 5 best bets every week. So I just made it 4. So I was incorrect on 2 of them. I missed out by 1 point on each of them, and then I actually, with the Ravens and the Bucs, they both identically hit the number. So minus 14 for Baltimore. Baltimore won by 14. And the Bucs minus 7, won by 7. So kind of a rough week for the best bets. Hoping to get back on track this week in week 5. But so far, the spread, pretty good. Straight up, I think that's better than pretty good. Probably more towards very good. I wouldn't say it's great. I'm sure there's other people out there that are doing better than that. I did take quite a few kind of upset picks last week that didn't really turn out. So last week, I think I went something like, there was 14 games last week. I think I got 4 wrong, and I think a couple of them were upset selections that didn't end up going my way. So we're going to see if we still lean towards a couple bold upsets, because I do like to pick the bold upset here and there, to give you a little bit of a switch up. It kind of gets boring, like in my opinion, to keep picking like the favorite in every game, because there are games that I feel going into it and I describe and I break it down and I give you like the info that I feel is really good and that I feel could help you. And then with that information, if I feel it's close enough for me to pick the upset, then I'll pick the upset just for the fun of it, right? So let's get into the first game, which is Thursday Night Football. And that's probably one of the best games of the week, to be honest with you. Guys, also follow me on social at Mitch Milani. You can follow me on IG as well as Twitter if you want to give me a personal follow on IG. But this is my Twitter that I tweet every single basically day. So if you want to keep up with me on Twitter, you can follow me at Mitch Milani. All right, so let's take a look at Thursday Night Football. The Bucs right now. Oh, and before I even get into any of the games, I should legitimately... And Nicholas Gill is asking, Mitch, it says you have 39 games right in the BLV Pick'em. That's because when I pick the BLV Pick'em games, it's a couple days before I do this video. So typically I'm just going off what I pick here. So I write it down. I have a notebook here. I'll show you right here. So I'm not lying. So this is my last week. So week 4, just to clarify. So I put all the games down where I write them down. So I go off the notebook. So I have everything in the notebook, and that's kind of what I base my record off. I don't base it off the ESPN Pick'em because that I picked the games before I actually picked them here. And I'd like to base it off of closer to the game than further away from the game, because the reason I don't update my picks on the Pick'em is because I just set it and forget it. Like, I don't want to have to go back and fix it and stuff like that. So yeah, that's why. So if you're curious about that, if you are in the Pick'em and if you're doing well, congratulations. But that's why my records and my picks are different. Like, for example, I think one week I picked the Bengals to beat the Browns on Thursday night, and I forgot to switch it to the Browns when I picked the Browns in the video. So that's just one example of that happening. Or this past week, I picked the Chiefs once I heard that Cam Newton wasn't playing, but I picked the Patriots in the Pick'em. So those are two examples of kind of the difference there. So Thursday night football, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Chicago Bears. This game's probably one of the best games of the week. This is not a great week, to be honest with you, for matchups in the NFL in terms of storylines, in terms of big games that could matter for playoff seeding. This game, I think, is going to be very defensive. I think the offense that can operate at a higher, more efficient level is going to be the team that wins this game. And that might very well come down to the quarterback play. We saw last week Nick Foles struggled versus a very good Colts defense that's ranked number 1. We'll get to the Colts when we get to the Colts. But Foles was missing some throws. But I would overall just say that Foles didn't have much of a chance versus the pass rush of the Colts. The Colts were all over him for much of the day, so he didn't have much of a chance. Foles is a pocket passer. He's also not a guy that's a quick decision maker or a guy that's going to make his offensive line better, like a guy like on the flip side, Tom Brady, who kind of makes his offensive line better because of his brain. He's able to get rid of the football very quickly. Nick Foles is more of a guy that he's willing to take the hits to make the throws, but you need to give him time to make the throws as well. And Nick Foles, I think, is affected by great pass rushes. So you have the Colts, who look like one of the best defenses in the league, and quietly one of the best pass rushes in the league. And I'm going to dive more into that in the BLV Bottom Line Extended Edition, which I plan on filming right after this because my computer wasn't working earlier. I think the Bucs defensive line can do similar things in that regard to the Bears offensive line. The Bucs pass rush is very good, especially with their ability to rush from the interior with Sue and Vita Vea. And then, of course, you have Shaq Barrett and JPP on the outside that are able to beat you off the edge. So I think Foles is going to struggle from that regard, not to mention the secondary of Tampa has played pretty well this season, maybe even better than pretty well, and they have the best combo of linebackers in the league right now. So I think this defense for Tampa is probably going to be more stingy, and they match up better versus the Bears offense than the Bears defense matches up with the Bucs offense. The one thing that concerns me about the Bucs in this game is their injury report, is their injuries. Mike Evans is banged up. Scotty Miller should play, but he's questionable. Chris Godwin's not playing. O.J. Howard is out for the season. So they're going to have Gronk step up. Fournette's doubtful, which doesn't really matter. But it's going to be Ronald Jones a lot in the backfield. You might see some Keyshawn Vaughn, the rookie third-round pick. I think you're going to see more Gronk, more Brate, more Miller. and you're going to see probably a limping but playing Mike Evans. And Mike Evans showed you that even versus good corners, when he's hurt, he can still perform. So I think the Bucs will move the ball better. I think they'll sustain drives better. And it just seems like Tom Brady is starting to get it going a little bit with his arm and with this offense. They're clicking a little bit more. So I think the Bucs go to Chicago and win. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if this game was close, like a one-score kind of grinded out game because of the injuries on the Bucs side. But the Bucs are the more talented team. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay to win. I'm going to say it's going to be like 23-14 or 23-16 or 17, something like that. I think probably the Bears will be in the teens while the Bucs are in the low 20s. I think that's probably what we're looking at, a 7, 6 to 10 point win for the Tampa Bay Bucs. So I'm going to take the Bucs to beat the Bears and cover the 3.5. This game's weird too because the number was at 3 to start, which I'll give you insight here. I took the 3 on Monday because I thought it would go up. It went up to 5.5, all right? It's back down to 3.5. It's for some places because of the injuries. So Nicholas Gill, the Bears fan, actually has 26-13 Bucs. So interesting score from him because he's usually tilted to the Bears side of things, which is understandable because he's a Bears fan. But that's interesting. So maybe we'll get to your reasoning why. Nick, let me know in the comments why you think that. But I do think the Bucs defense is the reason they win this game. Setting up Tom Brady to make plays with this offense that's a little bit beat up right now. So that's the Thursday nighter. Going to Sunday, and a lot of these games, spreads are kind of whack. Like a lot of them are not even up right now because of the COVID situation, like the Broncos, Patriots, and the Titans game. There's a bunch of games that don't have spreads yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the spread pick later on in the week. So I'll probably post it as a community post. I'll post it in Discord. What I'm picking versus the spread for the games that have not released the spread yet. So for the straight up pick, I'm going to give you my pick right now because that's probably easier. But in terms of the spread, I'm going to leave that to the community post probably on Friday, Saturday, if I know for sure that game is happening and what the spread actually is. So I'm not going to make a spread pick based on a weird number. So Cardinals, Jets. I am taking the Cardinals 100%. This is one of the games that I'm looking at to use a teaser on. So take the number down from 7 to like 1, for example, with a 6-point teaser, because I think the Cardinals will win the game. But the way that the Cardinals have been performing, I'm not exactly confident that they will cover the 7, even though they're playing the Jets. But to me, I like the game. I like the Cardinals for a bounce back spot here. The Jets are the worst team in football. They have a weak secondary. They don't really have a great pass rush, and their coaching, as we know, is subpar. When we look at the offense, Joe Flacco may be starting over a guy like Sam Darnold, which I think is a downgrade, even though Darnold's not fantastic. Flacco is terrible at this point in his career, so that actually could be a reason to bet on this game. If you're down on Flacco, that's a reason to take the Cardinals. I'm honestly surprised the number isn't higher, but the Jets do probably have to win a game at some point. I guess it could be this game, but I expect the Cardinals to get back on track here. I just have too much confidence in Kyler Murray, even if he's been a little bit down as of late as a passer. Some things I noticed with him versus the Panthers is just teams are starting to figure out this offense a little bit more. I think they need to change things up. I think they need to become a little bit different, more creative, and just a little bit more multiple, I think is the word. I think teams are starting to jump on those money concepts and take away the easy throws for Kyler. I think they just need to be a little bit different in terms of their approach. Maybe a little bit more run heavy under center, maybe a little bit more play action from under center, I think would help. But Kyler, I've also noticed he's been a little bit lackadaisical with his mechanics. A guy that typically has been so good with his release has looked a little bit different and worse in that regard. Defensively, I never thought the Cardinals were great, but they're good enough to slow down probably the worst offense in the NFL and keep them to a minimum points-wise. So I'm going to take the Cardinals to win this game and the Cardinals to cover the 7 points. I will say the Cardinals win pretty big here. I'm going to say they get near 30. I'm going to say 28-14 for the Cardinals in this game. Nicholas says, Mitch, the Bears will lose because QB1 is on the bench. Foles can't move. Our offensive line will get wrecked. That's fair enough. So I guess you're expecting a fumble, strip, or some sacks, stuff like that. So that's insight on the last game. We'll get to some of the comments in a little bit. Opium does say that I have a baby face. I think it's the haircut. Whenever I get a haircut that's more tight to my face, it does typically look more like I look younger. I don't know. Maybe that's it. I don't know. You guys can tell me. But I don't really have a lot of facial hair going on, so that might be it as well. I look younger than I am, I think. I think that's the consensus. All right, let's move to the next game, which is the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta is -1 in this game. The line started, I think, at -3.5 for Atlanta. So obviously some sharp money has moved to the Carolina side because of how Carolina's played and because of the injuries, I believe personally. I don't know for a fact, but this is just my opinion. Because of the injuries to Atlanta's star receivers in Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, I think that makes a major difference in the way that this game would be played. I think overall this game looks to be a shootout. Carolina's defense has been performing better. They played well last week. But I wouldn't put too much stock into their win versus Arizona or how their defense played because their coaching staff, as I brought up last week in the preview, is very familiar with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. So they kind of had the tells down. They had the scheme down. And I wouldn't say that is the same going versus a team like Atlanta. Now, offensively, I think that's where Carolina can win this game. I think Carolina's offense is seriously underrated from both a talent perspective and a scheme perspective. I think their receivers are awesome. I mean, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson has been fantastic. Of course, you have Curtis Samuel. You have a lot of speed, a lot of guys that can get the ball in their hands and make plays. And even Mike Davis, who stepped in for CMC, is playing really, really well. I think their offensive line is also underrated. And hey, I've never been the biggest Teddy guy, but he's taking care of the football and he's making big throws. And he's getting the ball, more importantly, into his playmakers' hands, which is what he needs to do in this offense. I do think Carolina's defense is better than Atlanta's. I think they both have terrible secondaries, but the way that they're being coached and the way that they're performing right now, Carolina has currently been the better team. This might be the sucker pick. This might be the public kind of pick, but I feel like just based on the trends and based on seeing these two teams with my own two eyes, Carolina has been the better team this year. You know, the only game where they really got blown out was versus the Bucs. And you know that I'm high on the Bucs. Other than that, they lost to the Raiders by 4. You know, they beat the Chargers, who are looking like a decent team after going toe-to-toe with Kansas City and Tampa Bay. And, you know, they just beat the Cardinals. So they could be 3-1. They lost the Raiders by 4. So I have the Panthers in this game. And if for nothing else, just to hope that Quinn gets fired. I'm going to be honest. Like, I never like anybody losing their jobs, but he needs to go. All right? They need a new coach. Maybe they just want to wait till the end of the year, kind of like the Jets, and just wait to get that high draft pick, secure it, and then move on in the offseason. But I think if they lose this game and they start out 0-5, he's done. He's donezo. So I'm going to take the Panthers. I'm going to take the team with more confidence, more momentum, and less injuries. And I'm going to take Teddy B to win this game in the Dome. Obviously, I'm taking the point. That's kind of irrelevant. All right, next game is the game of the week, the stream of the week, in my opinion. The Indianapolis Colts, the Cleveland Brownies. This is going to be a game for sure that I stream. I think I said earlier that I might stream the Bucs and Bears game. Kind of depends how I feel. Maybe I'll put a poll out there and see how you guys feel as well. But that's maybe looking like the second best game of the week. I think the Browns and the Colts is going to be a quality game because I think there's some really good matchups from an X's and O's and talent standpoint. You have Myles Garrett versus one of the best offensive lines in the league. And then on the flip side, you have Wyatt Teller. Yes, Wyatt Teller is playing like one of the best guards in football, and just overall the Browns offensive line who's just steamrolling people versus a Colts defensive line that's playing like one of the best groups in the league. So that is an awesome matchup. And you have two quarterbacks that are very, very unpredictable and very up and down. Volatile is the word that I like to use. I feel Cleveland is the more talented team, but they're also very beat up. And I do think when I look at the injury reports of both teams, this is a pick that could change in my opinion. I actually did put the Browns in one of my combo bets to upset. I took the money line with the Browns just because I think they have more upside offensively. I think they can score more points. I think the Colts are capped offensively, but their defense is much, much better. So I'm really in the middle with this pick. And honestly, I'm deciding right now which way I want to go for this video. I like the way the Colts defense looks. They've played some pretty subpar offenses, though, along the way thus far. And their offense really hasn't impressed me much. But on the flip side, the Browns are really a one-sided team. If they can continue to run the football the way they have, although they don't have Nick Chubb, they have Kareem Hunt. If they can continue to get the ball in OBJ's hands, they should be successful. But I'm worried that if the Colts are able to create some sort of pressure on Baker Mayfield, he's going to make mistakes. So I am leaning towards the Colts in this game. This might be a game that I have to clarify, Saturday, Friday or something, but I'm leaning towards the Colts just because of how their defense looks right now. They are the team favored for a reason, despite being on the road. And even though I don't love Phillip Rivers, I think he's starting to find his way in this offense and realize that he doesn't need to be the one-man show and he doesn't need to make the big plays to win. He can just be a game manager, and he's plenty good enough to do that. So, just based on recent performance, I want to pick the Browns, but I really don't have enough confidence in their defense for me to pick them. So I'm going to take the Colts to win, but it's probably not a game that I would bet on. It's probably not a game that I'd be super confident in either way. I could see either team winning, and I honestly think it comes down to who can break the big play and which quarterback does not cost their team the game. Is it Rivers or is it Baker? And, which defensive line can make the plays? The thing that I'm really worried about with the Browns here is all the injuries they have on the interior defensive line. Sheldon Richardson is hurt. Adrian Claiborne is hurt. Who else is hurt? They got a couple other guys. Ogunjobi, I want to say, is also on the injury report. So they have a few guys that are like essential to their defensive line that are banged up or questionable going into the game. And when you're playing a team that can run the football the way the Colts can, that makes me a little bit worried. So I think that's the biggest reason I'm going with the Colts right now. Now, Greedy Williams has an opportunity to play, so that could change things in the secondary for Cleveland. But yeah, this is one that I'm interested in more to watch than to actually pick or lay money on, for sure. The next game is the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys right now are favored by 9.5, nearly double digits in this game. The Cowboys coming off another loss in a shootout type of game versus the Browns that we just discussed. The Giants kind of made it more interesting than we thought last week versus the Rams, at least I thought. The Giants were able to kind of stifle that Rams offense and slow the game down and really make it a sluggish game. but I would say the Giants really couldn't get anything going offensively. Now, this is a matchup versus a team in Dallas that really doesn't have any defense. So could the Giants offense get it going? Is this a Jason Garrett revenge game here? I don't know. I am going to say the Cowboys win this game, but I am going to take the 9.5 right now because I have no confidence in the Cowboys defense to be able to make this a blowout. I think this game ends up something like 31 or 34 for the Cowboys and 27, 24 for the Giants, something to that degree. Now, the Cowboys very well could cover this spread just if they win by 10, but 9.5, covering 9.5 for a team that is 1-3, a team that has the worst defense in football right now, even versus the Giants, is a scary thing, especially considering the Giants' new offensive coordinator is Jason Garrett, who is very familiar with this roster, this team, and even the scheme. So that is scary. I think the Cowboys win, but this is an NFC East divisional game, and I will take the 9.5 points. It's just too many points for a team that has not looked good all year in Dallas. So there you go. The Jacksonville Jags at the Houston Texans. Houston minus 6.5 in this game, so not quite a touchdown and extra point, but Jacksonville has been kind of an unpredictable team. We haven't really known what to do with them all season long. You know, week 1, they came out and they won. They laid an egg versus Miami on Thursday night. Houston just fired Billy O, and I do think the reason I'm going to pick Houston here is just because of Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson better than Gardner Minshew. I still believe in the Texans to score points as they did last week versus Minnesota. And even though the Houston defense isn't very good, I think that they can make a couple more plays in Jacksonville. This is a game I probably won't be tuning into. I'm going to be quite honest with you. I have no real interest here. This is a 1-win team versus a 0-win team, a winless team. I think Houston wins, and I'm kind of questioning whether I want to take the points here or not because I'm really not confident in Houston at all. I think this is one that's very close to this number. I think it's going to be like a 7 or 6-ish kind of game. I could see Jacksonville covering this for sure. Maybe even in a backdoor situation. I'm going to take Jacksonville. That's just kind of the gut feeling I have with the points. I'll take the 6.5. Just because I could see Minshew keeping up in a shootout type of game. I actually do like Minshew. I picked him up in one of my leagues as a potential start this week. I think his receivers will have good games. And again, guys, I've said this week in, week out. Jacksonville, you know, they might be one of the worst teams in the league, but they have lots of talent on offense, playmakers on offense that can make this interesting. So I'll take Houston to win, but I will take the 6.5. I just think that might be a little bit too much for a team that hasn't won a single game yet and probably should have beat the Vikings. I mean, they lost to the Vikings, who suck. So the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. This is a game that's really weird because Baltimore has a lot, and I mean a lot, of injuries. They have a lot of guys on the injury report. Now, you guys know who I'm going to pick here. I'm picking Baltimore, unless the questionable Lamar Jackson with a knee injury does not suit up. If Lamar Jackson does not play, I'm not sure who I'm picking here. Am I still going to pick Baltimore if RG3 plays? I'm not quite confident. Either way, on that decision, I think it would be a much closer game. I'm going to take Cincinnati with the points right now. Might change my mind, but based on the injury report right now, with like 20 people on the injury report for Baltimore, I'm going to take 13. That's a really big number. You know, Baltimore beat Washington by 14. It seems like Baltimore is a team that in the fourth quarter, if they're up by double digits, they end up just sitting their roster. and, just sitting their quarterback, their running backs, all their relevant players. So that allows for a backdoor situation. Joe Burrow has looked like a top 12 quarterback, top 15 quarterback thus far. He takes hits, but he makes plays. The offensive line is bad, but Baltimore needs to blitz to create pressure, which allows Cincinnati to hit their one-on-one matchups on the outside, even though Baltimore has a good secondary. This is one where Joe Burrow could be a little bit up and down, have his rookie struggles. But on the flip side, Baltimore should be able to move the ball. They've been very good versus Cincinnati with Lamar Jackson. I remember last year they blew them out of the water twice. But given the injury report, given the uncertainty on Baltimore's side, right now I'm going to take the points. And Joe Burrow is just too good. I am confident in Joe Burrow getting this many points versus most teams. So I'm going to take Cincinnati with the points, but I'll definitely still stick with Baltimore to win this game. Baltimore they have flaws of their own. If Cincinnati can create pressure, if they can just do okay versus the run, which might be a lot to ask, they have a chance to make this one competitive. And it is an AFC North game. It is a divisional game. So there is some familiarity there, and I'm always more keen to take the points in a divisional game than an outside division game. So, there you go. Next, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs minus 13 points. This is another massive number in a divisional game. Now, this might be a game that actually might not have a spread right now, depending on what site you're looking at or where you're looking for the spread. But the last time I looked at it, it was still minus 13 for Kansas City. But I know that there was concern about Stephon Gilmore playing versus the Chiefs, and then that whole picture that came out with him and Mahomes, dapping each other up after the game. So there might be a little bit of movement in terms of this line and in terms of what Vegas is doing there. But right now, 13 is just too much. I know the Raiders have a lot of injuries, but I don't know, man. 13's a lot of points. And the Raiders can really run the ball on most teams. And we saw this might be a game that if Chris Jones is not playing, I'm going to take the Raiders to cover this number. But if Chris Jones is playing, I might slightly lean towards the Chiefs. This is the thing with a big number in the Chiefs. They're one of those potent offenses that they can cover a big number like this because of the amount of points they score. So the more points you score, the more likely that you're going to cover a big number. The higher scoring of the game that it is, the more likely that you're going to cover a big number. So I think the Chiefs, it's kind of going to be close to that. I think they're going to win by 10-ish. They could win by 14. I don't think they're going to win by 20, though. That would be a lot. It is an AFC West game. I like John Gruden as a coach. They've really looked good in their running game. Darren Waller is a mismatch issue for this team and this defense. And as long as they have some guys, I know they got Arnett out and Ruggs might be out again, and they got Edwards out, and they got some of their offensive linemen. Hopefully Trent Brown can return soon. But I just think if they can control the clock, run the football, get Darren Waller involved, get Josh Jacobs involved, they'll be able to move the ball to the point where they can score 20-plus points on this defense. But we do know that Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes have fared very well versus John Gruden's Raiders thus far, so that has to be taken into account. This is a game that, again, I might change my pick in terms of the spread selection, but in terms of straight up, I am definitely siding with Kansas City. I do think I'm going to take 13 just because that is a massive number. Again, for a team that with the Raiders that they're 2-2, and they didn't just lose to some bad teams. They lost to New England and Buffalo. It's not like they lost to I don't know, Atlanta or Chicago. No, I'm just kidding. Atlanta and Miami, ultra undercants teams. They didn't lose to those guys. They lost to Buffalo and New England. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about that one? Would you take the number or what? All right. But yeah, definitely the Chiefs to win, no doubt. Okay, so the Eagles at the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the Battle of Pennsylvania. Guys, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button. I know we have over 140 people in here and only 20 likes, guys. So if you enjoy the weekly picks, if you enjoy my picks and my breakdowns, make sure you do leave this video a like. It does help the channel, help the video, and help people find this channel and this content. So make sure you do Gronk spike the like button, and also if you are new, subscribe to the Bottom Line View. All right, so Philadelphia Eagles at the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the Battle of Pennsylvania. This was a game that I was very interested in to see what the line would be because Pittsburgh kind of basically had a bye. Well, not basically. They did have a bye because of the COVID situation with Tennessee. So they've had another week of rest and guys to get healthy and Ben to rest up, which is a big deal when you're an older quarterback. Philadelphia, on the other hand, is coming off a massive win. They kind of just saved their season and saved their hopes in the NFC East. And it's not like they're under a lot of pressure to get their second win because Dallas is struggling to win games in their own right. The Eagles, I think, were kind of lucky to win the game last week. I think if Nick Mullins literally was not the worst quarterback in the NFL last week, they would have probably lost to the 49ers. But Nick Mullins basically said, hey, Eagles, would you like to win this game this week? And they gave it to them. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh here, and I'm going to take Pittsburgh as well to cover the 7. I think their defense is going to be all over Carson Wentz, who's still been an extremely inaccurate passer this season. And even though he made a couple of big-time throws last week, I'm not going to overreact to that. I also don't think they're going to be able to get Miles Sanders going in this game to run the football effectively. And they don't really have any speed to worry the Pittsburgh secondary right now. Deshaun's out, Jalen Reagor's out, so that's going to hurt. Defensively, the Steelers will struggle to run the ball. The Eagles are definitely tough in terms of their run defense, but I think Ben can make enough plays with his receivers and with Eric Ebron to make things happen and to be able to score 24-ish type of points. I think this is going to be another struggle for Carson Wentz and the Eagles' offense in particular. I'm going to say the Steelers win 23-13. Steelers get a couple turnovers, probably 4 or 5 sacks, and win this game. All right. Next, the Buffalo Bills at the Tennessee Titans. The Bills, Titans, as you can see, not available is the line right now, so this is going to be one of the games that I'll update you with. Not sure if this game's actually going to take place this week or not. Again, I'll let you know if I change my pick or I give you my pick. Because I'm really not sure what the line's going to be because I didn't really even see like an opening line for this game. So I don't really even have like a ballpark. I'm thinking Buffalo minus like 3 or 4, something like that, because I do think Tennessee being undefeated, they're at home. I think there will be reasons that this game is kind of close in terms of the spread. I am going to take Buffalo, though, to win the game. And if Buffalo is getting any kind of points in this game, or if this game is under 4, I'm taking Buffalo to the bank. I think Buffalo is the much better team. Even though Tennessee is undefeated, I think Buffalo is a legitimate contender. And I think Josh Allen is the better quarterback. I think they have the better defense. I think they have the better passing game. And all of those factors, coaching being about, I would call it pretty even. I believe in Mike Vrabel. I like McDermott, and I like Dable, and I like Smith right now. So I think Tennessee has been a little bit overrated because they've played bad defenses and they've played pretty bad teams overall. I think their record is not indicative of what they are. And I think this line would definitely be totally swayed to Buffalo if they played Pittsburgh last week, because I think Pittsburgh would have beat them. So that would have changed things as well. So they haven't quite caught up in that regard. Now, I will say, if the Titans can run the football effectively and make Allen make mistakes, then they have a shot at winning. I'm not going to totally rule that out, but I just think Buffalo is more talented. The way they're playing right now is awesome. Corey Davis went on the COVID list. They have Adam Humphries on the list as well. So that being said, receivers are lacking. I'm not sure what's up with A.J. Brown, if he's back or not. I'm not even sure this game will take place. But if it does, I'm going to say Buffalo wins by a touchdown. And again, anything below that, I will take the Bills to win and cover as well. The LA Rams at the Washington football team. Washington is actually kind of an interesting matchup for the Rams. They made a switch at quarterback. Haskins is out. Kyle Allen is in. Of course, Ron Rivera brought Kyle Allen to Washington and not Cam Newton. Nice call, Ron. But Kyle Allen's a quarterback, so what we know about Kyle Allen is he can rather be very safe and very conservative or absolutely lose you a game. As we saw last year in Carolina, he was both things for the Panthers. One week people were saying, oh, this guy could be a legitimate starter. And then the next week they're saying this guy's the worst starter in the NFL. So I don't think he's any better than Haskins. I think Haskins is more talented, but Haskins has not been playing well, so I don't really necessarily disagree with the decision to sit him. I think the defense and the front of Washington is going to challenge the Rams. And I'll be intrigued to see if Washington can take anything from that Giants game, because the Giants did a good job versus the Rams offense, and Jared Goff had one of his bad days. I'm going to side with the Rams, though. I will also say the Rams win because I have no confidence in Washington's offense to score enough points to make this interesting. But if this was, a close game, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked, because I could see Washington, with a couple turnovers, a bad Goff game, and Kyle Allen coming out and just getting it to Gibson, getting it to McLaurin, easy run after catch plays. I think that would make it so that Washington can make this competitive. But I'm going to say that the Rams do win, and I will take them to cover because I do see a world where this could be a blowout, but I'm not necessarily going to say it will be. So there you go. Where am I at here? Miami Dolphins at the San Francisco 49ers. This is another game with the line is kind of uncertain. Let me know if you guys have seen anything different. Miami is coming off a loss that actually was quite competitive versus Seattle, which is what I said on the show last week. San Francisco is coming off a tough loss to Philadelphia, where their quarterback basically lost them the game. So for that reason, I'm going to say San Francisco wins, and I'm actually going to say San Francisco blows out the Dolphins. I think this is going to be a bad Dolphins game. Reason being, 49ers are pissed. And reason two, I think this is a bad matchup on paper for the Dolphins. I think Fitzpatrick could have some turnovers. I think the Niners' run game will give that defense some issues. So for those reasons, I think the Niners will win by about 14 points. I'm going to say they get back in the 30s, do the 49ers in this game with Jimmy G back. I'm going to say 31-16 or 17. 31-17 we'll go with for the 49ers. The Finns have looked pretty good, and I've said basically every week that their games would be competitive, but I actually think the Niners are going to come out hard here, and they're really going to put a beat down on the Dolphins. That's just kind of my gut feeling, and I know for a fact, do not take that game last week seriously for the Niners. Mullins left a lot of yards and a lot of points on the board last week, and Jimmy G will not do that. Just look at the difference between the 49ers with Jimmy and Kyle with Jimmy, and then everybody else, right? So I'm going to take the Niners, and the Niners to win big. The Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots. This is another game that as of this morning I saw not available. So this is another game that I will give you the updated odds soon, and this is a game that they don't know if Cam Newton's playing yet. They really don't. That will probably be a decision for Saturday, Friday, and I'll keep you updated there. And Cam Newton, obviously, he impacted the line by what? Like 5 points, and that was before seeing how bad Brian Hoyer was. So, honestly, Cam Newton is probably, for the Patriots, I don't know if I'm exaggerating here, but he's probably a 7-point swing. Probably a full touchdown swing from Jarrett Stidham in terms of a weekly basis of what Vegas is going to lay. Because as we know, Cam Newton, and as I've expressed here, Cam Newton is a one-man show. Now, Stephon Gilmore is also going to be out for this game, or I shouldn't say also, but is definitely going to be out for this game. I don't think David Andrews will be back. I don't think Shaq Mason will be in the lineup, but the Patriots probably, and I'm not even going to say probably, they do have the deepest offensive line in the league. I'm not saying the best, but the deepest. I mean, they had a 6th-round rookie push around, had a 90-plus elite grade versus Kansas City in Omenahue, and they also have a few other guys that have come in and played very well in replace David Andrews, Shaq Mason, who are Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber players and top 5 at their position respectively. So Patriots have a good line even when they have injuries. So keeping that in mind, Broncos will be without Jarrell Casey, which is a huge loss when defending one of the best run games in the league. I do think Stidham will play better than Hoyer just because I think Stidham's physically better. And I don't think you can play worse than Brian Hoyer did last week, who basically single-handedly lost the Patriots the game versus the Chiefs. The defense for New England just keeps getting better each and every week. Their pass rush looks better. Chase Winovich is playing at a very high level. Guys like Adam Butler, Dietrich Wise, John Simon up front are playing well. Kyle Duggar's getting involved at safety. Adrian Phillips is playing well. And, of course, the cornerbacks. And this is the one secondary that could lose the Defensive Player of the Year at corner and not really have to worry, especially when the best receiver on the other side is a rookie in Jerry Jeudy and not much else. So I think New England wins. I just can't see the Broncos scoring more than 13 points in this game unless there's some fluke play on the other side of the ball. So I'm going to take New England to win with or without Cam, and I'm going to say they beat the Broncos with or without Cam by 10 points. So I'm going to say 24-10 without Cam. With Cam, this is like a 30-10 game, something like that. So I'm going to take New England to win. It might be somewhat of a grinded out fest in the first half, but I think eventually New England will break out and win this game easily. The Broncos just don't got anything at this point. Minnesota at Seattle. This is Sunday Night Football. The Vikings are not within 7 points of the Seahawks. I understand that they've gotten better, and I understand that Zimmer typically, gets better as the season goes on with his defense, and young secondary is going to get better. The Seahawks are arguably, the best team in their conference. The Vikings beat the Texans. Okay, yeah, cool. I'm not willing to accept that the Vikings are within a touchdown of Seattle. When's the last time the Vikings beat Seattle in Seattle? Like 2005? I don't know. Somebody look up that stat. Seattle is going to score at least 30 points in this game. So the question is, can the Vikings score 23? I think they can, but I think Seattle's going to score like 35-38, and I think Kirk Cousins and the Vikings are going to score 24. We also have to factor in that this is Kirk Cousins in prime time, and I don't love to buy into the narrative, but the fact is he has not played well on prime time versus teams that have winning records. That's just a fact, all right? And Cousins has been, last week he was really good. I'll give him credit. But in weeks past, he hasn't been great. Dalvin Cook's been unreal. Definitely got to give him that. The defense is still very shaky. And Russell Wilson is playing like an absolute G right now. and the MVP of football. They're not losing this game, especially at home. They'll win. I think they'll cover, and I think this will be a offensive shootout kind of game. I know these games in the past have been defensive, but there's literally no reason on paper for me to suggest that. So I'm going to go Seattle 34, Vikings 24. Seattle covers the number. Monday Night Football time. The LA Chargers, the New Orleans Saints. And guys, this is the last game, Monday night. So make sure you get in the comment section and leave your opinion for the games and your picks this week. And I'll definitely get to the comments right after this game. Also, if you've enjoyed Gronk, spike that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Guys, definitely do Gronk spike the like button because it helps the video. It helps other people find this video. It helps other NFL fans find the Bottom Line View, find this channel. If you want to support the channel, you could do it as simply by Gronk spiking that like button. All right. LA Chargers, New Orleans Saints. This is in New Orleans. New Orleans looked better last week offensively. Drew Brees looked a little bit more aggressive. He was hitting throws in the intermediate part of the field. I'm not going to say the deep part because that's not true, but the intermediate part of the field. I still have my questions about their offense when it comes to playing elite defenses, and this is going to be a big test. Chargers are not fully healthy, but they still have a very good defense. And when the Bucs were targeting underneath throws, the Chargers were really good at defending it. It wasn't until Tom Brady opened it up and started chucking it 20-plus yards down the field where the Bucs started to expose the Chargers' back end. I think the Chargers make this very competitive because Justin Herbert is playing absolutely lights out right now. He is playing out of his mind for a rookie. He's making plays with his legs and his arm. And their defense, their pass rush has a capability of making things difficult on Drew Brees. Now, the thing that you have to factor in is I think the Saints are going to run the ball in this game very well. Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray had big games last week, which I think is what allowed Drew Brees to have success on play action and downfield shots. Defensively, the Saints have been still kind of shaky, and they still are dealing with a lot of injuries. So for that reason, I'm going to say that the Saints win this game, but I actually think this is going to be an entertaining Monday Night Football game as long as Justin Herbert continues to play the way that he has played. I'm going to take the 7.5 points here, even though the Chargers are on the road. You know, it's not like it's a full house in the Superdome. So I think this defense keeps it competitive. They make plays underneath. They rally to the football. They tackle well. This is not the Lions defense that you're playing. The Lions defense was horrendous last week. And the Chargers offense has looked better with Herbert, significantly better. And they can run the ball. They can pass the ball well. So I think this is actually an entertaining Monday night game. Saints to win, Chargers plus the points, plus the 7.5. All right, again, guys, I'll be updating you with the rest of my picks for the picks that didn't have spreads out at this moment. I'll be doing that, probably releasing that through the community tab here on YouTube. So that's another reason to subscribe. Community tab. I'm going to be releasing all of my picks there versus the spread. Also, if you're curious about my Patreon and about my best bets, you can subscribe to the Patreon. The link is in the description. Starts at $3 a month. I'd like to give a shout out, if she's watching right now, Miss Sharon with the big donation today. So that was very nice of her. And we've also had a couple new Patreon members as well. So I appreciate you guys for going over there and showing support to the channel and giving me support and just showing that you're valuing the content. So I appreciate that. You can also follow the channel on Instagram at TheBottomLineView, where you can get exclusive NFL content over there. Ultra's helping out with the Instagram. Derkant is helping out with the Instagram. And of course myself, putting up some interesting comparisons of great players from the past. Jim Brown, Barry Sanders. We had one from Derkant this week. Ultra does his top 10 teams. Of course, there's clips from the channel up there and more stuff like that. So go check out the Instagram for sure. if you want to get involved in this community, as well as also checking out the Discord. I know I have a lot to plug here, but we have a lot of stuff going on in the Bottom Line View. If you want to get more involved in the community, the best way to do that is, guys, get on the Discord. We have I think around 200 people in the Discord. We talk NFL, we talk movies, we talk music, we talk whatever in there. So if you want to get involved in the Bottom Line View community and help this grow stronger, get in the Discord and have a fun time talking to people that love football as well. All right, let's get to these comments. Here to answer your questions. Let's get it going. So, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. What's up, Shanav? Rob says, it's time for the NFL to start discussing a playoff bubble with more COVID cases. The only thing there is maybe they can do the playoffs, but it's just difficult to do a bubble because of the amount of people that are on a team. So even with the playoffs, it might be a little challenging. Deshaun says, Chargers win if they can protect Herbert with the offensive line. Rob says if Kamara gets shut down, the Saints lose. Ultra says the Saints' offensive line somewhat controls the game. Breeze has another good day in the intermediate field. Alvin Kamara has another fantastic game, and the Saints win 28-24 in an entertaining game. Durkant is going to sleep. Good night, Durkant. Mr. Singh says Vikings Seahawks play against each other on primetime for the third year in a row. Yes. I think one of those games was excruciatingly horrible. I do remember that. Mitch, can the Broncos pull off the upset if Drew Lock plays? I'll say unlikely, but I wouldn't exactly rule it out if there's no Cam Newton. Now, if there's Cam Newton, I'll say no shot, but no Cam Newton, I wouldn't rule it out. No. Isaac said, if I sub to your Patreon, will you help me with my homework? Probably not, Isaac. I'm just going to be honest, but I can help you with the NFL fantasy and with some bets if you like. So if that's homework, then I'll help you with that. Brian says, Mitch, what's your record on head-to-head winners this year? Oh, if you guys want to know my record, I left it at the beginning of the video. As long as you're talking about straight up. You're talking about straight up or you're talking about versus spread? Here you go. Where's my record? So, if you guys missed it earlier, my record 45-16-1, spread 33-26-3, and my best bets are 9-8-2 because of a rough week last week. But we're looking to get back on track this week. Ken Troy says, so far, offensive rookie of the year. I think it's Joe Burrow's award to lose, to be honest. But, Herbert's definitely giving him a case. Rob says, with the injuries and traveling means easier decision with winning pick. Not sure what you mean there, Rob. Injuries and traveling means easier decision. If you're just saying in general, injuries and going on the road is always difficult. For sure. Can the Bills defeat the Chiefs? Yes, I think they can. Rob says, Ken says, nice. Phoenix says, where do you rank Terry for young receivers? I guess it depends who you're talking about when it comes to young receivers. Is that first year, second year, third year, fourth year? But I think he's probably in the top 5, probably maybe even top 3. But the thing that hurts him is he doesn't have a good quarterback and he's not in a good offense. So that certainly hurts his claim. I think right now my number 1 young receiver is DK, though. But I think McLaurin is probably at least in the top 5. Ultra says Vikings last win in Seattle was 2006. It was a long time ago. Jack says the Colts might need to prove themselves again. This is a big week for them to prove themselves. Isaac says, when do you think Seattle's and Green Bay's first loss will come? Good question. Let's take a look. I'm going to say right off the top, I think Green Bay is going to lose to Tampa as long as Tampa is healthy, which I think is next week. So I think Green Bay's first loss will come versus Tampa. In terms of Seattle, let's take a look. So they play the Vikings. They'll win. I think they will beat the Cardinals, but that won't be easy. They play the Niners. They play the Bills. They play the Rams. So I think if they don't lose to the Niners or the Cardinals, they'll lose to the Bills. If they don't lose to the Bills, they'll lose to the Rams. So I think they could lose as early. Now, you know what? I think they'll beat the Cardinals because they're bye week before that. So I'll say they beat the Cardinals. I'll say if they don't lose to the Niners, they lose to the Bills. So one of those weeks they'll lose in November, beginning into November. That's my call. Under, over 100 yards receiving for Scary Terry. I'm going to say 4 receptions for 82 yards for Scary Terry this week. What's up, Dylan? If Atlanta goes into sell mode, who gets traded? That's rare that happens in the NFL. Like, it's very rare, but a couple guys that I think would be interesting. I think Keanu Neal would be kind of interesting. And I think Julio could definitely be on the table, as well as maybe Alex Mack. I don't really know anyone else that would be intriguing to hear about, but no problem, Rob. Ultra says, Mitch, do you buy the Cardinals as a playoff team? I'll say right now, no. Diehard Barton says, Bengals need AJ or do not need him. Well, AJ has not been playing well. So if they are able to trade him for any sort of asset, I would. If a team like New England was willing to give up another second-round pick like they did for Sanu for AJ Green, I would do that. The Bengals are a couple years away, probably at least a year away from competing. They're not competing this year. Maybe they could next year for a playoff spot, but likely 2 years from making major noise. So I would get rid of AJ if you can for some sort of third or second round pick. I think that would be worth it. I don't think you're going to fetch a first just the way he's playing. Bears are a playoff team, asked Dylan. I'm still saying no, but I think they have a chance. Brian says, Bills beat the Chiefs by 10 plus week 6 and make a statement. Ooh, playing in Buffalo is hard. I agree with that. And the Chiefs could very realistically be 2-2. Yes, but that's always the Chiefs. They always do that. Buffalo has a good defense, and Josh Allen kid is pretty good. All right. Jack says he wouldn't mind if the Colts traded for AJ Green. Well, supposing they're all in right now, I mean, T.Y. also isn't really looking as good as he used to, so he could use some help. What else we got? Can Denver tank for swell? Denver doesn't need to tank on purpose. They kind of already are just by the way the year is going. Bink says, are the playoffs different this year? Yes, they are. There's 7 teams on both sides. 1 bye team. Ultra says, Mitch, how sold are you on the Steelers as contenders? Out of 10, I'll say 6.5. Maybe a 7. Katie says, Cowboys need to trade Dak and Elliott. Katie's going bold. She wants to sell the whole face of the franchise here. Falcons' first win. Good luck. I don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe this week. If not this week, though, I don't know. Maybe Ultra can tell you. All right, guys. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Katie says Buccaneers 28, Bears 20. Opium says Mitch PS5 or the new Xbox. Definitely PS5. Always been a PlayStation guy, and I will remain that way. So on that note, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, again, Gronk, spike that like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for weekly NFL picks.